Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
There's a place in Monticello, Kentucky called Beaver Creek. There's the resort, which is just a boring tourist location, but there's a more remote access road called Lynch Ford. A few fishermen go there, but there's never more than 10 cars at a time, in my short experience. I had a falling out with my family, so I moved here to get away from the insanity. To cure my boredom and fill my belly, I went looking for places to fish. I didn't know many people around here, so I had to look for places on my own. I pulled up Google Maps and searched around for creeks and rivers on the satellite image until I found Elk Creek, which led me to Beaver Creek. I Googled further to find the resort, but I didn't want to be around people. I just needed to be alone, really. I'd had too much FaceTime with family, as it were, and I wasn't interested in socializing. So I got in my car and drove around sort of aimlessly until I found Lynch Ford Road, which ends at a remote section of Beaver Creek. For a whole month I fished there Monday through Thursday, reeling in massive bluegill, perfect for getting a thick enough cut of boneless meat to batter and deep fry like a true southerner. I also caught the occasional log perch, drum, and largemouth bass, but I was more focused on the gloriously tasty and bountiful bluegill. A lot of fishermen laugh at the thought of bluegill fishing since it's considered baby's first catch, but they taste better than any other freshwater fish I've ever eaten. I got a real taste for these fish and felt compelled to return to the creek to keep my freezer full. I didn't like going on the weekends because teenagers often set up camp and partied all weekend, and that's exactly what I like to avoid. However, I decided to go on a Friday evening recently and noticed a distinct lack of humans. No one was there. I was thrilled. I went back Saturday evening and was again surprised no one was there. Cool. I had the entire creek to myself again, and I loaded myself down with delicious fish, not finding it at all suspicious in the least that the weekends were devoid of party folks. I took a few days off last week to catch up on other evening duties like weed eating and mowing the lawn. I returned to Beaver Creek once again last Thursday. As I was driving my car down the winding, narrow country road to the creek, I met an oncoming truck that was barreling like mad and almost clipped my car. Assholes. I assumed they were young and drunk or on meth, so I continued to my favorite place. There's a shitty dirt road that goes the length of the creek, but it's so rutted out from people getting their trucks stuck in the mud that it's impossible for me to drive my car with its precariously dangling crimped-up muffler and tailpipe down to the best fishing spots. So I always park my car in the gravel parking lot and walk with all my gear down the dirt road. I got there around 6:30 p.m. and hoofed it down to a really nice spot where a small stream falls into the creek in a shallow waterfall. That spot is a bit shy of half a mile from my car. On my way there, I noticed some weird-looking tracks in the mud. They looked human but were a bit skinny and curved terribly inward. I wasn't sure how to write that off as ordinary. The tracks lead off the road and into the weeds toward the woods where I couldn't follow. I was a bit concerned about it, but I had mace and an old-timer hunting knife with me if any inbred rednecks decided they wanted a piece of me. Onward to my little waterfall spot, I set up my fishing chair and dropped my line in the water. I wasn't getting a lot of bites at first, so my eyes began wandering the banks and mountainside. Usually when I'm out there, I see a lot of great blue herons fishing the banks and croaking their weird calls. I usually hear the screeching of blue jays, crickets ramping up for the evening, and all sorts of other nature sounds. This time, it was much quieter than usual. At this point, I began to worry a little, but perhaps it was the cooler weather causing the lack of nature sounds. With the absence of party folks, other fishermen, and the locals that walk the creek and swim, I wondered if maybe there was something going on down there that everyone knew about but me. The odd tracks in the mud, the truck tearing ass away from the creek, and now the diminished sounds of nature were getting to me. But then, suddenly the fish began to bite. One after the other, I reeled in some fat bluegill. I spent the next hour loading up my fish bucket. All anxiety left me. If you're a fellow fisherman reading this, you understand what I mean. It was getting dark and difficult to see to pull out the hook from the fish. This was nothing new for me. I often stayed out a little after dark with no incident if the fish were still biting. And as luck would have it, I was trying to grab hold of a particularly large and feisty bluegill when it finned my hand. I reacted with a loud fuck. I shook off my asshattery and continued business as usual. Almost in reply, I heard a response from the woods behind me. I heard fuck. It sounded male and in an unfamiliar accent. It had almost an analog quality in voice, like a tape being played back, but not in my voice. I froze in place, still holding my reel with an iron grip. I started to panic internally, but I tried to stay calm and listen. A fish began tugging my line, but I ignored it. I slowly reeled in, missing the catch, and laid my rod and reel down. I unclipped my knife from its holster on my belt, and I uncapped and turned the head of my mace in my pocket. I stood still with my eyes fixed in the general location of the voice. I could hear the faintest sound of rustling out there, but I couldn't see anything. With the tiniest bit of sunset left, I got my mag light out of my backpack. No sooner did I grasp my flashlight, I heard what sounded like snoring coming from the direction I heard the voice and rustling. It sounded like two people snoring or grunting, but nearly in tandem, still having that tape-recorded quality. It kept getting closer. I grew a pair and clicked on the flashlight, but I was unprepared for what I would see. I started scanning the light in front of me and worked my way outward toward the noises. At first, I caught a glimpse of white humanoid flesh hobbling slowly behind the trees. I was scared out of my mind. My hands were shaking so hard that I couldn't keep the flashlight trained on the thing very well. The thing hobbled to a point where the trees were skinny enough to see past, and I got a good look. It looked like fairly young conjoined twins. It had two human heads, a broad torso, and two messed up legs. It was naked and pale, and it was looking at me, still making that faint snoring noise. As I stood there shaking like someone with Parkinson's disease, it drew in a deep breath and made the most awful two-headed howling noise I'd ever heard. It lunged toward me a bit, then its heads turned to look at each other and they sort of chuckled. I was freaking out harder than I ever thought I could. Never in my life had I ran so fast, yet felt like it was taking forever to get to my car. It was dark at this point, so I was trying not to trip or slide in the mud and ruts on the dirt road. Once I got close to the car, I looked back with the flashlight and saw the thing walking across the road to the spot where I left my fish and gear. I only stopped for that moment. Then I got in my car and peeled out of there as fast as I possibly could. I hate Kentucky. I got ripped off by an inbred Siamese twin hillbilly. Laugh if you want, but if you were there, you'd run like hell too. That shit was just unnatural. Anyway, let this be a thread about your experiences in the woods. I'd be interested as hell if any of you know someone who has seen this freak of nature at Beaver Creek.
One evening, I went fishing with a bro down on Beaver Creek in Kentucky, not far from the house. Get to the fishing spot around 5 p.m.-ish. September last year. Be fishing, burning them up and filling the stringer fast with big, plump, delicious bluegill. Decide to build a fire and stay late. Got 2 mag lights and lantern, screw the dark. Decide to try for catfish. Accidentally kicked a tackle box while messing with fire. Bro goes around picking up what he can find. I'm still trying to keep the fire from going out. Look back and he's walking off into the woods. He must need to piss. Leave him be. Hey Anon, come look at this, he says from the woods. Sure, it must be something cool. Get mag light and see what's up. Can't find bro, hear bro pretty far off. You won't believe this, hurry. Ask where he is, ask him to shine a flashlight. See light way off in the distance. What F, no way he got that far in like 10 minutes. Turn around and look at the fishing spot. See campfire, see bro in his fishing chair, not sure who is who. Go back to the fishing spot, bro acting normal. Must have taken a long dump, dude, you were gone for almost an hour. No way. Yeah, had to go pretty bad. Must have been that crappy beef jerky you got. I played it off like nothing happened, because I would have never heard the end of it from him. The voice in the woods sounded just like my friend. Sounded just like the way he would talk. We stayed later. I'll tell what happened after that in the next post. Continue fishing. No luck. Trying to ignore what happened earlier. Keep hearing someone walking back where I heard the voice. Ignore, don't want to act like a coward. Reeling in, I feel my hook snag something big. Not fighting my fishing rod, just dragging something big in. Probably a log or something stupid. Get tired. It was huge. Let bro take a turn dragging it in. Still hearing the footfalls behind us. Hearing a lot of them now. Getting really nervous. Stop reeling, said a voice from behind us. Man standing in the tree line right behind us. It ain't no business of Yun's. Bro drops pole. We both stand there speechless. Best y'all get on out before trouble starts. We're like, yes sir, sorry to bother you, we'll go now. Pack up and GTFO, on the way out see a few flashlights off into the woods a bit. No idea what they were doing. Rumors around town said a boy was missing and never found around that creek. We never went back there. I still fish, but if I get snagged up on something big, I just cut my line and rehook. I really don't want to know.
Okay guys, this is a story that happened to me a year and a half ago. This is completely true, and I'm going to type it out as I remember. The included pictures are of the campsite and the map, the general layout, and where areas of activity were. Not super good at Greentext, but I'll try my best. Be me. Be 20-year-old commando going Innawoods for weekend camping trip with friends at a private property they own. It's mid-June in Truman Lake Ozarks area of Missouri. Arrive after dark the first night, set up camp and grab some food, then head to bed. Next day doing normal Innawoods activities, and some people leave, so it's only my friend J, his brother H, and his brother's friend L. Later on that night, sitting by fire. H passes out drunk and is placed in a small cabin. J then goes to bed in his Jeep. L and I chilled by the fire just shooting the shit. Around 11:30 I started drinking myself. Hear rustling around in the woods. Notice that there's no sounds at all other than the fire and the rustling. No birds, crickets, or tree frogs. Immediately drinking Red Bulls and water to sober up. Rustling turns into what sounds like tiny footsteps, similar to how little kids run around with that pitter-patter sound. Hearing running, coming from around where the cars are located. Grab a flashlight shining in the woods and get closer to the tree line. Hear it on occasion, but it's just inside of the tree line, so can't see shit. Screw this, I'm out. MP3, walk back to my fire. 40 minutes or so, hear loud banging of logs by the cabin and more running. Hair standing on end as I jump up with L and yell, "Who's there?" Running and banging stop. Every single thing around us except the fire is completely dead silent. Notice a nasty musky damp smell in the air. Immediately go and grab my AKM pattern rifle with a 1000 lumen flashlight and load up. Put on my hearing protection with amplified 3-dimensional sound. Listening for a long time but get nothing but slight static coming from areas where sounds could be heard. Don't hear shit for another half hour. Begin to relax and talk to L some more. Suddenly I hear something large moving around the cabin and little pitter-patter running by the cars. Flip off safety and fire a warning shot into the woods and scream, "This is private property, we will shoot." Hope it's just some random murder hobos who will turn back. No sounds anymore, but smell that nasty musky odor. An hour and a half pass by with no sounds, and stop noticing the smell. Hear what sounds like a brush pike getting dragged through the woods by something massive. Jump up immediately and flip off safety, and turn on flashlight and fire another shot into the woods. Don't hear shit for another hour or so, when suddenly hear something large go crashing through the woods by the cabin again. This time I jump up and grab a headlamp and turn it on as well as the one on my rifle, and walk down the path to the shooting range, and all I can smell is this intense musky odor, to the point I'm nearly gagging. Stop by where the shitter is, and begin scanning the area. My rifle light pans across what looks like a 7 feet tall bipedal creature covered in brown matted fur sprinting through the woods. Open fucking fire towards where I see it running, while I run back towards the camp, screaming, "What the actual hell?" Tactical shit myself as I quickly reload and keep my rifle pointed at the tree line. L is freaking out, asking what the hell happened, while I'm too started to even speak. Eventually nothing happens for a long time after I told him, and all the normal forest noises return. Around 2 or so, L goes into the cabin to fall asleep. Still hear nothing new since when I shot at it, and around 4 got in my hammock. Have a moment of extra chromosomes and think nothing more will happen, and set my rifle against a tree. About to fall asleep when I notice there's no sound at all except for the fire. Immediately I feel anxiety and dread wash over me as I'm fully awake and hyper-aware of everything around me. Hear pitter-patter around my hammock no 5 feet from me. Internally shitting myself and screaming, but frozen in fear. Hear large footsteps start to slowly get closer to me as I'm overwhelmed by that musky odor hammock. They stop right outside of my rain tarp and see the tarp start to be depressed inwards as if something is touching it. It begins to slide its hand lower down the tarp. This is how I die.jpg. Regret not sleeping with my rifle. Eventually it behinds to walk away. Can't smell anything anymore or hear it. As I'm laying in my hammock about 20 minutes later, I hear a large tree fall down in the middle of the woods from what sounded like about 100 feet away. Sun started to rise, and everything around me returns to normal, and I begin to finally fall asleep. Leave the area the next day, and regret not being more accurate and killing it. I still go back to this property regularly, in the hopes one day I can find it again and capture it, on the multiple trail cams. I put up or even better kill the thing. I swear to you all. This is a completely true story, and was by far the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. My thinking is that all pitter-patter footsteps were likely a paranormal instance due to how they affected my electronics. And the other thing I'm not quite sure about. I've never believed in Bigfoot or that shit, but I don't know anymore.
Somewhere between wow it's nothing.jpg and wow it's something.jpg, depending on whether you need a supernatural element to interpret into a story for it to count or not. Go visit Dad in his country home Innawoods often. Enjoy walking the rocky and forested northwestern Ontario area with people and without, very familiar with terrain. Sometimes hear coyotes howl outside the house at night during certain seasons, because Dad and his partner have a dog, and apparently coyotes do that to exploit dogs' stupid friendliness to lure them out and kill them in the dark. But bears and other scary animals avoid the area because of dog smell. House sit for them for a week while they vacation with their dog, nice private retreat week. Always try to walk every day due to it actually helping depression. Realize in the middle of the night while watching movies in the living room. Best part of being in a house alone is that no one judges you for cooking food, sleeping, reading, or doing anything you want at abnormal hours. That I didn't walk. Remember that I can do whatever I want without disturbing anyone at any time of day because alone in a house. Just go out walking. Got my phone and a regular old flashlight because I am stoked to walk the spoopy, totally dark woods, even though I'm literally just walking a loop within sight of the house. Get all screw this light business, I can see just fine in the dark. Within moments, like a smug dude who thinks he's a perfect hiker might. About 2/3 of the way through the short, coward walk route, hear lots of breaking sticks and rustling of fallen leaves and freeze. As it gets closer, it sounds like a big commotion, like multiple things are moving about, and think it's got to be a gang of clumsy-ass thieves out to ransack the house and kill anything inside. Hide behind a sheer side of a big rocky mound like the Canadian Shield area is basically made of. They crash into the space like 10 feet away. I hear the coyotes yip and snarl and shit for the first time super loud. What the hell.jpg? A second later, as I start to bolt toward the house, one of them jumps out to the side, but it's facing the other way. Another farther away does the same and sees me, and it just freezes like I've startled it by being there. Checking over my shoulder, realize whatever they're doing has literally nothing to do with me. Just in time to see a huge moose crash out of the woods and crush coyote number 2 to death with its giant antlers. A bunch of pack hunters getting chased down by a crazed moose for some reason. Moose are shockingly enormous, by the way. We think of them as just some deer variant until you see one and realize they are the damn elephants of Canada. Coyote 1 tries to bite it in the shin to distract it from its friend, who is already doomed. Moose kicks it off and turns to run this one down too. See a number 3 run off? Past the house? The moose just completely pulps number 1 into the dirt even more violently, and then thunders off after number 3, and I can feel the huge weight of the thing vibrating the ground while it runs. Hear the sound of a small dead tree cracking. Get inside, watch out windows for the next hours, but outside lights aren't pointed in a woods. Morning comes and I go out. Yep, it knocked over a tree on the property. One regular dead coyote, one messily dead coyote by the trees. Go in the direction of the tree. Nothing over there, so number 3 probably got away. Go back to Rocky Mound, find flashlight I forgot entirely about, and walk a short distance. There was a coyote #4 that died before I even saw them. Apparently this one's a mess too. While I'm thinking what to do about carcasses, I see the moose just standing there in the distance, chewing a spruce, its antlers tipped red. It gives me this what, motherfucker look, and I go back inside scared. Fucking moose.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.